Hi, it's me again. Oh look, there's my car. What's this? That's my other camera. And I got a handful of stuff, including you guys. What am I drinking? Just like an energy drink thing. Zevia 0 calorie. This one's grapefruit, naturally flavored. Hold on a second. And we're done. No, I didn't change the bumper yet, George. Because I gotta go do something. Now we get to ride around in this thing with the M22 and hear the noise for ourselves. So you guys hang tight and I'll be right back with you. Well, just do the intro thing. I'll see you in a minute. All right, seatbelt. And scene. Okay, here we go, kids. Off we go. Mics are working. I know they are. We're gonna head off today. Put my slippers down. For speed. All right, here we go. All right. I'm gonna go work on a panhead motorcycle a buddy of mine, Cliff, has. On our way there, we're going to talk about Carter AFBs, what it stands for, because that was your car quiz. So AFB stands for aluminum 4 barrel. Huh? How many of you guys knew that? And when did you learn it? I'll tell you when I learned it. I don't know exactly when I learned it, but I heard it the other day, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and it was like, epiphany. That's what that means. But it's like I always knew it, but it like dawned on me, right? You know that? Yeah. AFB, aluminum 4 barrel. So dumb. Anyway, it's pretty cool. When did they first came out? Well, the first time GM used them was on the dual quad 409s. Yep. In fact, it's almost the exact same carburetor I have here. And Chrysler used them too. On their cross rams or dual quads. They used a similar carburetor. And then the aftermarket world, of course, Carter was making these for all sorts of stuff. These are from the 70s, I think. I don't remember the date code on these, but they're from the 70s. Anyway, that is what I know about Carter AFBs. Listen to that howl. Yeah, I love it. So we're gonna go up to Kula, well, in Kula, lower Kula, I guess. Oh yeah, still gotta slip that clutch. Oh yeah, hear it? Second gear, third gear, howling the same. It sounds like, okay, what it sounds like is, if you ever had an old truck with granny low, and they called it granny low, like an old truck 4-speed, the non-synchroed first gear, they're slightly, so when the teeth are real sharp, or there's a lot of angle to them, they can like, they're not as tough as when they're shorter. Not shorter, but less angle. They have more, I don't know if it's more surface area, I'm not sure what the whole, like for helical gears, they're stronger when they're straighter cut. I think there's as they're rotating, there's like contact. I'm not sure how that works. It's science, and I'm not a scientist. I want out. There's traffic. Can you guys see that traffic? Probably not. You guys can't because you're looking over there. Here, slip the clutch. You hear it? So that's that, Mattress Man. What movie's that from? Bonus points. Yeah, Carter AFB, aluminum 4 barrel. What's the next question? I was going to ask you guys a really good question. It has to go with the Ford trucks I've been working on. Somebody made a comment about, you know, a Chevy being in a Ford and how Ford should have done it like that originally. You know, it's a funny story about that, and here's your car quiz. I may have already given it away right there, but the small block Chevrolet was first designed by Ford. And why didn't they continue? I don't know. But they threw it out. They threw the plans out, and this is the rumor I heard anyway. And that was picked up and by whoever or however it transferred, and GM took them and patterned it. But the question I have for you guys is, who actually had the first V8? Huh? This might surprise you. Who actually had the first V8? And how big was it? How many cubic inches was it? And what was its configuration, I guess? And how much horsepower did it make? That's what I want to know. So that's your question, kids. There you go. Straight from the seat of a blown small block and an M22 and a 9-inch and a 57 Chevy 150 model. By the way, the 150 was the bottom of the barrel. And that is your car quiz questions for this week. Now, as far as story time goes, oh please, gotta roll the window up a little bit so the rattle goes away. The story time. I thought I gotta write these down. There's so many in my brain. I have to write it down. I forget. I'll be thinking about it. Does this happen to you guys? You're driving along and you're like, oh yeah, I need to tell somebody that. And then you'll see them and you'll forget all about it. That's kind of how it is right now. I'm seeing you and I can't remember exactly what my question was gonna be. Not question, but what my story was about. This is the Haleakala Highway, by the way, and we're gonna head up towards Kula. Did I tell you about the first motorcycle I ever built? Speaking of motorcycles, we're gonna go look at a panhead that my buddy built. I kind of helped put it together. I don't really know. Well, I don't know which bike it is. It's one of the panheads up there. There's been other guys working on it other than me, which is fine. They're all learning how to work on it, which is the way it should be. They all should be learning how to, anybody, if you guys own a car or a motorcycle or something like that, you should learn how to work on it. Find someone that knows how to do it and have them teach you instead of having them do it for you. You should learn, because if there's ever an issue with your vehicle, then you know what to look for. That being said, the first motorcycle I ever had was a 1938 Knucklehead. And I was never a motorcycle guy. They always scared me, to be perfectly honest, because when I was younger, my buddy Cameron, his dad gave him an 80. And we were young. We were probably 7 or 8 or 9 or something. And I'd never been on a motorcycle, except for when I was real little. My dad had one, I think, when I was born. I don't remember. Or maybe he sold it when I was born. But we went for a ride on maybe a friend of his motorcycle. I think he wiped out in the gravel. I was probably 1 or 2, and my leg got burnt by the exhaust. I mean, no scarring or anything, just, I have header pipes that burn on my legs, all scars from that. They're not molten metal, molten skin, but they're like a 3rd-degree burn kind of a thing. Anyway, that happened to me when I was little. At least that's a story I don't remember. I was there, I just don't remember. By the way, this transmission does actually downshift in all the gears. It's real tight. The story with this transmission is it came out of a 68 Firebird supposedly, but I heard from somebody else that it came out of a 67 RSSS Camaro that used to street race around here a lot. And that's what this tranny was out of. So this M22 was in that Camaro, and I almost got that Camaro, but it was so rotten that but I ended up with parts for it. It was like the roof was falling in, kind of rotten, not savable. Anyway, here's the next deal. Okay, so the next story. So the 38 Knuckle. So I was building a 50 Buick Riviera for a guy. How many I told you this? And his kid and him, they had a garage, and there was a bunch of cars and a bunch of motorcycle pieces and parts. His kid was younger than me. He was starting to collect a bunch of parts. and I'd never, you know, been in motorcycles. I was scared of them, like I said. Camera had an 80 when we were young, and I think the first time I rode, I like popped it up over on myself, and I was like, I'm done with motorcycles. Excuse me, COVID-19. And no, I don't have it. I'm just kidding. Anyway, another friend of mine, I think it was actually Cameron's cousin, who was a few years older than us. He died on a motorcycle on a back road going to visit somebody. Somebody pulled out and hit him and that kind of stuff. So motorcycles have always scared me. I didn't want anything to do with them. And then this guy was building these Buick for and these other cars. He was leaving and he said, hey, while you're here, why don't you put a motorcycle together for, you know, if you feel like it. Maybe put one together for yourself, put one together for me, and maybe we'll sell one. And there was like, I'm talking like engines and empty cases and just transmissions, and for a Harley person, this would be like a gold mine. We're talking like a 3-car garage. The floor was littered with, you know, early frames and stuff like that. They were just everywhere. So I found this old long stretch chopper frame, and a motor and tranny were kind of in another frame, and I pulled this motor and tranny out. Didn't know anything about it. Found like a Tilliston style carburetor, like would be off or a Zenith would be like off a shovel head or something. Old factory Harley carb. I didn't know. I just kind of started bolting stuff together, and I actually had the carburetor hanging out the wrong side, and but I mounted it right, and I figured out linkage. I made pipes for it, and it was a kickstart, and I got to fire up and run. Had a magneto. I didn't know anything about that stuff, but I knew about mags and carbs, and I knew about compression. I had a buddy, Mark, who knew about motorcycles, and I think parts of these parts, so I think some of these parts were stuff he had. I don't remember. Anyway, I was trying to ride this thing, and it was, I had built it, and I had a foot clutch and a foot brake, right brake, and a foot clutch like a car, and it was a rear drum brake, nothing on the front, had a long springer on it, like 10 over. Just some cool pieces that look cool, kind of like Easy Rider kind of stuff. I like that kind of stuff. It was cool looking style. I had all together, had black megaphones on, or megaphone exhaust, and kind of looked like the Easy Rider bike. Had a coffin tank. It was a black, flat black. I painted it with white scallop. It was kind of cool. Anyway, I was like getting this thing together, and I couldn't figure out how to ride it, and it had a hand shifter, which the transmission had one on it already anyway. And I was like, you know, I didn't know anything about motorcycles. To me, that made, you know, it's a clutch like a car and this and that. So I just put it in whatever gear seemed like it should be in, all the way to one side, and tried to take off, and I couldn't get it to go anywhere. It was like I was taking off in 4th gear. And I couldn't get it. Kept slipping the clutch and killing it and dying it, and I got really frustrated. I went all the way down this block, and I pushed it back to the house, and I called my buddy Mark, and I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on with this bike. I can fire it up. I got tuned in. I just can't figure out how to make it work. It just won't take off. I think I did something wrong. And he said, well, what gear are you in? I said, well, I don't know. I've got this shifter all the way to whatever direction I was in. He's like, well, try moving it in the other direction. And I was like, what do you mean? And this shifter on these old jockey lids, they weren't ratchet style. They would just move from one direction to the other direction. And it was the same as like a tank shift. You would just move it, and it would just, whatever position the detent on the tank was in for the tank shifter on the old bikes, that's where this arm would move. There was no detents really in the tranny. It was like, there was a neutral between each gear. It was kind of weird feeling. And I didn't know anything about this stuff. So I just moved the shifter to the other location, the other end of it, and sure enough, I took off like I had been riding it all day. But I got really good at like feathering. My point is, I got really good at feathering a foot clutch. And because I was trying to take off in 4th. And I got it in 1st gear, and I was going around, and I was just shifting through the gears, and I rode around for like a week. And the guy comes back, and I had built another shovel head and a pan head, and he sold the other 2, and I had that knuckle for a while. And some deals went weird, and the kids started doing drugs. That stuff happens to you kids. Don't do drugs. Drugs are bad, okay? And no, actually they're kind of fun. No, they're not. Drugs are terrible, and they ruin people's lives. No, they're kind of fun. No, they're not. don't do drugs. So anyway, it ended up, I lost the bike and everything, but every bike I've ever built has been a foot clutch, hand shift, jockey shift, and it's how I learned how to ride. I'm not very good with the hand clutch. To be perfectly honest, I have a hard time riding a hand clutch and a foot shift. What really gets scary is an emergency situation. Here's my buddy Cliff's house. An emergency situation is if I go to, like, you know, stop and I push the clutch in and reach back here to shift it into neutral or whatever, to downshift. Well, on a hand shift bike, when I push the clutch in, that's the shift lever. So it ends up dropping a gear instantly, and I've got a hand off the handlebar, so I end up like flying up towards the neck. It ends up not being, you know, the best thing in the world. I haven't been here in a while. This is what we call the rat hole. A group called Rolling Death Maui, or Rolling Death, which if you guys look them up, I think I'm the security or the some, I don't know. You know, it's a tongue-in-cheek, goofy group of people. We all used to build stuff and it was all a joke, like, you know, tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff, like, yeah, here we are right here. There's a chopper right there. It's all like tongue-in-cheek, Rolling Death, because, you know, our stuff's so old it usually dies on the road. Rolling Death. See you guys later. Aloha.